Hello and welcome to SpeakUP. This is a vocabulary app for learning in the moment. We've created this app in order to meet the demand for folks just like Julia Eckert. She's 25 years old, a recent university graduate, and an ESL teacher in South Korea. Her goals and motivations include learning a new language to live and teach overseas, but she needs to have situational phrases readily available in the local language to make it easier to navigate in her new environment. Now, what problems are we solving for Julia? Well, she needs local language support for everyday work and life scenarios. She needs focused scenario vocabulary flashcards that provide on-the-spot learning and use. And we're trying to create a one-stop shop for vocabulary that is editable and event-specific. She's in a new environment, she's in a new country, she's in a new job. We want to make this as easy a transition for her as possible. So Julia needs a useful on-the-spot app that can provide language for specific scenarios as she navigates a new country and language, as well as starting a new job. We will know this to be true when we see her using the correct vocabulary when interacting in her classroom and daily life with the locals. Julie's told us that it's so frustrating carrying around my translation book, my notebook with common phrases that I've written, my phone, my wallet, and trying to communicate effectively with the locals in any given situation. I wish there was just one place that I could go to find the words I need for buying groceries and getting a taxi. So Julia faces a lot of challenges. She's living and working in a foreign country. She doesn't know the local language or dialect. She finds it difficult to learn a language out of context, so she didn't come prepared. She has immediate needs regularly that use a phrase book or dictionary would make cumbersome. She needs a single place that is easily portable and has a cloud to store her vocabulary so that she can learn on the go. Now, what we've tried to do here with SpeakUP is we've created an app that has a fairly simple onboarding process. It starts out with your typical login or sign up, and we've also added a login as guest option under the login. We started out that way. There are a few edits later. We'll talk about those when we get there. After you get your onboarding completed, we've provided space for them to choose a language and a location so that we can really cater to the local dialects, because English is different in Australia as it is in Great Britain, as it is in the US. These are all different. Spanish is different in different locations around the world, and we want to make sure that they're able to not just converse with the locals, but be understood by them as well. Once you get through all of that onboarding process, you end up at our dashboard. Now, our dashboard has a set of scenario sets. These are pre-created scenarios for situations that you're going to find yourself in when you're in a foreign country. And what we've done within each of these scenario sets is we've tried to break them down into smaller pockets of conversations or situations or experiences that you might have and give you all the vocabulary you're going to need for that kind of a situation. What's neat about that is that within these flashcards and these sets, within these sets, you can create flashcards and you can edit flashcards that are already there. You can add cards, you can edit them to add whatever vocabulary or information that you need so that in a situation, in a certain scenario, you have all the words that you need and you have them at your fingertips. So you don't have to search through a book, you don't have to carry around a lot of information for you to be effective right off the bat when you hit the ground in that foreign country. Now, these are the onboarding processes and user flows for creating flashcards and for logging in and getting yourself set up. And I kind of walked us through those already, so we're going to go ahead and move on to usability testing. Now, the 4 tasks that we set in front of our users were signing up for the app, creating a new scenario set, creating a new flashcard, and editing the flashcards. So the task 1 that we set out was signing up. Now, one of the things that our users brought to our attention was that the login as guests might be a nice option to have right off the bat instead of waiting until they get to a login page. So we moved that to our initial onboarding our splash screen here. Then we have our save button underneath creating our username and our email and our password. Now, that save button was confusing to some of our users, so we changed it to create account so that they knew exactly what they were doing in that onboarding process. Our task 2 improvement The creating our own scenario sets, create your own was kind of a vague, open-ended idea, so we made it more specific for our users by adding the word set so they really knew what they were creating, or that they could create a new set if the situation or experience was not available to them. When it came to our flashcards, a lot of our users would have really liked to have some pre-made flashcards to get a really good sense of what they might be able to put on those flashcards, or so that they wouldn't have to create every single thing on the app from scratch. So we are going to be adding pre-made flashcards for our users so that they can have templates to choose from to pull new information. We're also talking about adding a vocabulary, a verb conjugation kind of pull-out screen so that those common verb conjugations are already there for you, so that when you're creating a flashcard, you can create the full sentence so you don't have to be just using individualized words if you don't want to. Making an edit button on the flashcards came to our attention. So we decided instead of putting a button on there, it was a double click. So we'll have an onboarding process that explains the double click for the flashcards so that you know how to edit your flashcards, and you can edit them forever. These flashcards are yours to edit as you wish and in your own time. So our next steps, things that we've learned from our users is that we needed to create pre-made flashcards, pop-outs of common verb conjugations, considering the formatting of the vocabulary / definition for ease of use. Do we really want a card that flips, or do we want a card that has the correct vocabulary for use in that specific location with the English definition or your local language definition underneath it in kind of a lighter script? So there's a lot more conversations that need to have so we can flesh that out. Also adding a pronunciation element. We had some folks who came from more rural parts of the United States who are doing our usability testing, and they would prefer to have the correct pronunciation so that they did not have to guess at how to say the word, so they could say it correctly the first time, which is it's an incredibly important element, so we will be adding that. And of course, we're going to need some additional user testing to make sure that what we're providing for our public is something that will service them in good ways. So some final takeaways is that well, the pros were that feedback from users, especially the criticism, was very exciting to me because it led to improvements. It did not sting as much as I thought it would. In fact, it almost didn't sting at all because I felt as though I was creating this product with the users instead of creating it outside of the users. So that was a fun realization to come to. It was nice to have the idea of this app validated through the user conversations that I had. It was something that had been bugging me for a long time as someone who has lived overseas and had to move there without any or much preparation linguistically. So having scenario vocabulary on hand, I think would have been a much more useful way to approach my time overseas. Also, it was wonderful to really understand the greater process of creating an app or creating a product for our users. That was really exciting. It was nice to see that it wasn't anything too mentally outside of my capacity already, but I know that the specifics are going to be the things that take those into that really make it more difficult in the future. Some of the cons were that usability testing took a lot of time, and I feared greatly that I was imposing on others when I was asking for folks to help. There was a lot of vulnerability that those walls needed to be broken down, so that was kind of a con. But really, it's an opportunity for growth for me, so that was really good. I found that although sketching was good, beginning with the prototype software seems to be a move that I would want to make in the future, just because it saves so much time on editing. Unless I don't have an idea somewhat fleshed out, I just think that a lot of what I used was already built in the original design, so I would have liked to not have had to redo everything on a prototype. Instead of starting, I could have just started there, and that would have helped out a lot. The competitive analysis was time consuming and did not yield the results I expected, which was good in the end because it gave me a lot of information, but it also didn't give me a whole lot when it came to my ideas for my own prototype, because it feels like mine was perhaps not as prolific or prevalent in the already established apps. So those are my final takeaways. And here's a quote from one of my users. I see a lot of potential. I was thinking about trying to use this when I was traveling and trying to buy a loaf of bread. This would have been lovely to have, so I could have just gone in and gotten what I needed. And that, in a nutshell, is exactly why I think that SpeakUp is going to not just be an exceptional app, but I think it's going to revolutionize how we look at apps and their usefulness in the future. Thank you.